Cavazos, which means I drive. It is my passion. It is my life. Now, we drive crappy cars. Dad drove a taxi. My son drifts, and he would be a professional drifter if he thought he would find someplace to live that wasn't my basement. But when they talk about my driving, mostly they describe it as Miss Piggy, the Muppet, driving. Because in my 20s, when I had my first reliable car, the first car that I didn't have to carry antifreeze in the trunk, the first car that I didn't have to calculate how many miles I might have to walk back home, it was like freedom. Look at me, I'm driving, this is so awesome. I love to drive, I'll drive anywhere, I'll see anything, I don't care, I'm driving. Fast forward 15 years. It's not so much fun anymore. It's functional. And I'm driving a great, big, horrible car. They don't even make it today. It's the Pacifica. And I only bought it because Celine Dion, she sang the great song about it. I'm sure it went 0 to 60 in something. But why would you waste half a tank of gas finding out? It had a turning radius measured in kilometers. You didn't park the Pacifica, you brought it into dock. But this is what I had to drive because I had so many goddamn people to drive. Behind me I had a toddler in one of those enormous, disgusting car seats that was covered with Cheerio dust and way worse, the stain we won't discuss. He would have been better off duct taped with his forehead and his waist to the regular seat, the amount of time it took me to try and struggle to put that car seat in that damn car. Behind him was his 10-year-old brother. He didn't talk much. Mostly I just saw the crown of his head because he always had his Game Boy in his hand. And I would only hear from him if the battery ran low. Battery! As if he were a surgeon calling for a scalpel, which was okay because in the passenger seat next to me, I had my 69-year-old child, my mother. A therapist's dream. Mostly, she just paid attention to the speedometer when I drove. And if that needle nosed over 60, she would brace herself and say, "Who taught you to drive?" You did. Mom, if we go under 60 on 495, we will die for sure. Behind her was my dad. And he was in his late 70s, and he might have had 20% of his heart function. He had an automatic defibrillator and a 3-wire pacemaker, but he never complained. And he was happy to just be in the car, out looking around. And I would say, "Dad, how are you?" And he'd say, "Fine, awesome, this is great." Meanwhile, my mother would be bitching about my parking. So my typical day would be haul 10-year-old to his institution of education, haul the preschooler to his institution, and then stand by to find out where I'd be driving my parents. But there were a few days when my mother would decide it would be okay for her to drive. The temperature was above 40, there was no precipitation in the forecast for 48 hours, there was no wind, and it was bright sunny. Otherwise, I'd be driving them. But on those few days when I might have that magical 2.5-hour mommy time to myself without children in the house, I would love to tell you that I was doing something educational, something organizational, something uplifting, but mostly I was sitting there drinking coffee at the table going, "Oh, mommy time, good! Mommy time, good!" Counting down the moments when I had to go pick up that damn preschooler. Sorry, we really do love you. There came a moment when in my magical mommy time, Dad rang up on the phone and said, "Are you busy?" "Of course not, Dad, I'm right here for you, always, all time." "Could you give me a ride?" "Of course, where are we going? To the grocery store?" Because when my dad hit about 75, his favorite place to go would be an Asian market where we would stand around and contemplate the produce. We would say things like, "Look at those radishes." I'd say, "Wow, say, Dad, can we go? Because I might still be able to get an hour of magical mommy time. No, I've got to check the green beans. Okay. But Dad said, no, I need to go to the hospital. I said, really? Yeah, I might need to get checked out. Really? The first time my defibrillator went off, it jerked me into an upright position. What? I didn't know whether to focus on first time or defibrillator going off. I said, hang up the phone, please. Call 911. I'll meet you at the hospital. Don't be silly. I went upstairs to shave. What? That's when it went off for the second time. What? Well, I don't want to go to the ER and see a doctor looking disheveled. What? Dad, I'm a nurse. You are the least bad thing those ER people are going to see this shift. If you're not going to give me a ride, I'll call a cab. Dad! This was so Dad. You did things his way. Or you did things his way. I said, okay, I'm coming. And I jumped into that awful Pacifica. There are 5 lights between me and my dad's house. The first 3 I made with no trouble. The 4th one is a bitch. You can explain that to them later. I had to get in the left lane and make a hard left turn, and I was within 100 yards of it, and it turned yellow, and I'm thinking, I'm a Cavazos! I can drive! No, I can't. But I thought, wait, in theory, if I hit the gas, and then I hit the brake, and I turn the car over hard to the left, this Pacific is not going to roll. I'm pretty sure it won't roll. I'm pretty damn sure it won't roll. So I went, yes, go for it. Daddy needs you. You got to get there. And I hit the gas, and then I hit the brake, and I turned the wheel over hard, and stuff is flying around, including the Diet Coke I forgot about. And I'm like, concentrate. And that moment where I think, oh, I fucked this up. It's going to roll on me. But no. It didn't, and I shot down the street, and there was Dad in the driveway, right where I told him to be. Not because it was convenient to me, but I thought if the thing went off for the 3rd time, maybe the neighbors might see him and call 911 for me, saving me the whole awkward business of Dad crawling in my car and looking at me, and he reaches out to put his hand on my shoulder, and it could have been such a wonderful moment, a father-daughter moment. Dad, I'm here for you. Daughter, I knew you'd come, but all I could think of is, shit, if that thing goes off, I'll get sacked. Don't touch me! I drove fast to Fairfax. Dad said, why are you driving so fast? Oh, I don't know, because your defibrillator went off twice. I pushed him out of the door in front of the ER. I went to park the car and looked at the debris field that was my car. I ran in there, and luckily, Dad had some screw up with the medication, and he had too much potassium that it caused his heart to do weird things, but he was okay. And I forgot about it, because there's not too many people you can start a conversation with. So what's new? Well, Dad's defibrillator went off a couple times, nothing much. So I kept that to myself, and I largely forgot about it until the violation notice came in the mail. So there's a picture of me, and you can't see my face, thank God, because I'm sure it looks like... But you can see my knuckles at the 12 o'clock position on that car.